Back-to-back 50-point games for Bernard King.
Jordan trying to shake off Starks.
Oh, what a move by Jordan!
Here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win!
LeBron versus Jordan, the greatest argument of our time, which we now have all the time. Where do you start? What criteria do you use?
These are the two best of all time. It remains Michael Jordan.
I go with LeBron.
Unprecedented dominance ended the era of the all-powerful setter, hybrid big man and showrunner, obviously LeBron James.
LeBron James taking over.
More physical defense then, 7 straight scoring titles before he retired, and then 3 straight scoring titles after he retired. Obviously, Michael Jordan.
There's a kaboom. Jordan slams it again.
I did not jump out of bed this morning wanting to talk about this topic. LeBron James forced me once again to talk about this topic. Chasing Michael Jordan's legacy as if he still has a realistic shot.
50 years down the line, you can start this, because we'll be the old school artists.
Since coming in the league, LeBron has been chasing the ghost of Michael Jordan as the GOAT. James had some interesting comments on the subject when he joined the Open Run podcast on the Uninterrupted Podcast Network.
I don't think MJ ever had a game 7 in the finals. And people say, well, he was able to close it out early, and they act like he just, did it all on his own and things of that nature. They forget the shot by Paxson on the left wing.
I got burned by Bill Winnington a bunch of times.
You want to know the crazy thing? In that game, in that particular game in Phoenix, MJ didn't even have the ball in his hands. Pippen brought the ball up. Barkley went for the steal. Pippen threw it down to Horace Grant, and they got the defense. Because Barkley went for the gamble. They rotated to Horace Grant, and Horace Grant threw it to Paxson.
I was just watching this the other day.
MJ had nothing to do with that play.
Well, Mr. Smith, the floor is yours, my friend.
I'm going to try to keep myself under control, because I don't want to find myself in a position where I get too out there. I got emotional about Melo because I'm a diehard Knicks fan. I don't want to get too emotional because I'm an MJ fan. But LeBron James, what the hell are you doing? Now, I understand. Let me be very, very clear. LeBron is a 3-time champion. LeBron is the greatest player in the world. I am sick and tired of throwing out qualifiers about how great he is and how he's the closest thing to perfection as a professional athlete in terms of on the court, off the court combination. Look, I mean, enough of the praise. Listen, I love LeBron James. I love what he means to the game. I love him as a person. I think he's a great guy. But this kind of stuff right here, Max Kellerman, is sacrilegious. It is blasphemous. It is disrespectful. And I have to say this. Scottie Pippen was a Hall of Famer. Is that not recognition? I think that's recognition. If you have a teammate who is a Hall of Famer, when we show highlights of the Chicago Bulls winning championships, did we not show John Paxson shooting the jump shot? Did we not show Steve Kerr hitting jump shots? Of course we did, LeBron James. What we're talking about here is arguably the greatest player who ever lived, really indisputable to most of us. 6 NBA Finals, 6 NBA championships, 6 NBA Finals MVPs without ever allowing a Game 7. Of course Jordan didn't defend 5 people by himself. Of course he didn't score 100+ points in each game. Of course he had teammates. So all of this stuff that LeBron James is saying really makes no sense. It just smacks in the face of respect, because when you are great, the reason why Michael Jordan was so great was not only because he was clutch, not only because he was a closer, but before he was a closer in terms of championships, Max Kellerman, he was a killer, and you knew it. Larry Bird said God in shorts waxed us when Michael Jordan dropped 63. So when LeBron James becomes suddenly professorial, and starts waxing eloquently about the nuances of basketball. This is exactly the kind of thing that led to the damn 4th finals losses. Because what I'm not all for, because we know that 2 of them really were not his fault at all. But the point that I'm trying to make is, if LeBron James had Michael Jordan's attitude, do they lose to Dallas? Can J.J. Barea guard him in the finals? Can Jason Terry guard him in the finals? No, it does not happen. It does not happen. So when we're talking about Michael Jordan, of course he had teammates. Of course he played with people. Of course, other guys contributed and got it done. Of course, unlike LeBron James, Michael Jordan had one specific coach he could rely upon throughout those 6 titles, because Phil Jackson was consistently his coach, whereas LeBron James had obstacles to climb, etc., etc. It just baffles my mind, Max Kellerman, why you're LeBron James and you would utter these words, because in the end, it doesn't matter how you slice it. I know he went out of his way to express that he meant no disrespect to Michael Jordan, and I get that, and in his heart of heart, I don't think he meant disrespect, but your words come across as, at the very least, lacking a true appreciation and being a bit duplicitous, because when you are a superstar and you are the man, you know what the hell we're talking about. Don't act like you don't know what the requirements are that come along with that. LeBron James, God bless him, because thank the good Lord he is the man in the NBA, because he makes my days better throughout the season. But you know better than making the kind of statement that he made. This is some blasphemous stuff here.
LeBron James is really into advanced stats, into advanced metrics, using them to make his game better, to make it more efficient. He did it in Miami. He continues to do so. I mean, he uses these stats that were not available to Michael Jordan, even had Jordan been interested in those stats. So he has the advantage there in terms of how efficient he can be. And yet, according to all the most advanced metrics, Michael Jordan is greater on average in his career, like his PER, his average PER is higher than LeBron's. Wait a minute. That includes those seasons where he declined in Washington. LeBron hasn't even hit that phase yet. So that gap between Jordan on top and LeBron 2 is only going to widen.
But here is the reason I wanted to interject. Because while you're waxing so eloquently about these metrics and everything else, and you are on point, your biggest point is something I want my audience to gravitate to, Max Kellerman, and that is this. He's sort of tugging away at Jordan because you're justifying yourself, your 3-4 record in the NBA Finals. I'm here to tell you right now, 2 of those losses shouldn't be counted.
It's really 3-2. We agree.
Exactly. It's really 3-2 to me. It shouldn't be 3-4. LeBron James really should be 3-2 to me. I don't blame him for 2 of those Finals losses. But I would also like to add something here that I haven't heard anybody say. Does Michael Jordan with Dwyane Wade and Chris Bosh lose to the Dallas Mavericks?
No.
Hell no. That ain't happening.
It just doesn't happen.
I can promise you that.
Doesn't happen.
Does Michael Jordan with Chris Bosh and Dwyane Wade lose to San Antonio that second go-round? I don't believe so. I recall Michael Jordan and them going against Utah. Okay? Didn't happen when you faced Karl Malone and John Stockton second time around.
Try getting to a 7th game first.
Same result. The problem is that now you're tugging at Jordan's cape, and you're not apologizing for it, because even though you're doing it, you won't admit that you're doing it, but none of us are fools. That's exactly what you're trying to do. And it's not going to work. It's not going to work, LeBron. You can't sit up there. Look, LeBron James played with a bunch of no-names when he went to the finals, the first go-round with Cleveland against San Antonio. We understand all of that. We get the part that you got to have teammates to win. But when you bring it up, in this particular instance, for Michael Jordan, what in God's name would be the purpose for going on a damn podcast to talk about how, Michael Jordan had teammates? Steve Kershaw, John Paxson shot the ball. Oh, what? For what?
I find it offensive, disrespectful. I find it downright shameful that LeBron James continues to even bring up Michael Jordan in the same breath with LeBron James.
So I ask you, is there a way that he will ultimately be able to chase the ghost to 23?
How? Jordan led the league in scoring 10 straight years. LeBron's only led the league in one thing, one time, scoring one time.
In the 12 years that Michael Jordan was in the playoffs, he never averaged less than 30. never, a career 33-point per game average in the postseason.
I was just trying to play. It's not my fault. You fall apart so easy. I need to be with my own kind. Take me to where the rap music is powerful, beats and rhymes.
So here is LeBron James rounding up to 14 win shares this year. Michael Jordan, who had 18.3 of them.
One series he averaged 43. Another was 36. Another was 35. Another was 34.
Michael Jordan's age 33 season was, by win shares, almost 1/3 better than LeBron's age 33 season.
I live the illest life you ever could have. So much joy I cry, so much pain I laugh. At my best I am excellence, and my words are not inspired by the beat. Shit come out weak.
First team all-defense, 5th in voting for Defensive Player of the Year. LeBron, per second spectrum, not really the Cavs' primary defender against the opponent's best anymore.
He never averaged less than 30. He's a career 48.7% shooter from the field.
I'm a master builder.
5-and-5 data in the final 5 minutes of the playoffs, and the score within 5 points.
We're talking about making the shot.
11 of 22 in 27 minutes and 2 game winners. Age 33 Jordan, 20 of 39 in 44 minutes.
But man, there's a thing called winning the game.
2, now to 1. Here's Jordan. Yes! It is all over. The Chicago Bulls have won at the buzzer.
There are guys I could put ahead of LeBron when it comes to clutch.
Not O.J. and Mayo. He's got the pick. He's got the pop. The 3. Yes!
Lead by 4 with 12 seconds. Bird, three-pointer. Count it.
Great balls of fire.
Fire away.
LeBron is not the guy that wants to take that last shot. That's not how he plays the game.
And Jordan was so much a killer in the fourth quarter and in the games. I just think that takes it off the table, and we need to move on.
Young old timer, the tippy top shot original. Don Dada is written in the stars. Look me up there.
He's lost multiple finals. Jordan is 66.
He never lost in the finals. And one guy being undefeated in the finals, the other guy losing 5 times, only winning 3 so far. Championships.
Winning.
You look at Wilt and you say, how did he only win 2?
And Michael Jordan winning 6 NBA Finals, 6 NBA Finals MVP, and never allowing a series to go 7 games.
Brian also lost to teams that were worse than his team, like Dallas.
Jordan has never come up short, in a series like he did back in the Dallas series.
Jordan never lost to a team that was worse than the Bulls.
True. 6-0 versus 3-5.
How can you surpass that when he's 6-6? See, that's the part that wins me over. There was an invincibility about Michael in the last 8 years of his career. And as great as LeBron is, the losses in the final, look at that. There's no invincibility. I don't know that he changed the game. Michael didn't just change basketball, he changed sport globally. Again, as LeBron is the best player we've got now. He's a great, great player in any era. I think he's going to retire as one of the 5 to 8 best players who ever played the game, if not higher. But catching Jordan, to me, is just something I can't wrap my head around.
I ask you, did Michael Jordan ever disappear in any round of the playoffs, even when he was trying to fight through the Detroit Bad Boy Pistons and Larry Bird's Boston Celtics? Did he ever just disappear? Did anybody ever say, boy, Michael Jordan had a bad series against the Celtics? Nobody ever said that. The chosen one turned into the frozen one in ways I have never seen a superstar shrink.
I'm just in one, and I'm just getting started, bitches.
Gone to the finals 6 times. 6 finals MVP, period.
Never lost in the finals. I never knew what it felt like.
And it's the killer instinct that MJ had. I think LeBron's more of a pleaser, and he wants to get everyone involved, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're looking at the numbers alone, you can make a case.
If Mike didn't take that vacation to baseball, would he have gone 8 for 8?
Well, I'll put it to you like this. And we talked about this. Name all the guys that he denied, Hall of Famers, that he's denied championships. Myself,
Ewing.
Carl, John, Ewing, Chuck, Charles, all the guys that he denied championships. And you might want to throw in Hakeem Olajuwon if he's not batting $197 and missing fly balls in the outfield. Hakeem Olajuwon may not have two.
Man, he could have gone 8 for 8.
In 2014, my San Antonio Spurs blew LeBron James' Heat off the floor by a record finals margin. And I ask you, Shannon Sharp, did Michael Jordan ever get blown off the floor, his team, by any record margin in any round of the playoffs? No. Sorry, LeBron, you're disqualified from even bringing up Michael Jordan.
When you're separating the elites, the ultra elites, you nitpick. Little failures here, little achievements here.
And the reason why LeBron won't even be in this conversation is because he did have to leave Cleveland, where he was the MVP and the leader, to go to Miami to achieve championship glory. Michael Jordan here 6 times and win 6 finals.
But even when he got to Miami, and he did have other Hall of Famers on the team, he didn't go 4 for 4. No. He went 2 for 4. So, you know, that's a good argument as well, but there's no way that he can catch Michael Jordan. I mean, LeBron is, I agree with you, going to go down between top 5 or 6 players in the history of the game. No way he can catch number 1.
Blind witnesses who worship LeBron James, you raise your hand. I know you're one of the masses.
Yes.
I was going to include you in that.
Okay.
They have expunged from LeBron's record all those things. They don't count anymore. They're swept under the carpet and into the graveyard as if they never happened. They happened. You can't take them off his legacy.
He's a great player in this era, but he's not Michael Jordan. You know, it's 2 different animals. Michael was a killer. He's an assassin. You know, LeBron is more of a facilitator. He's the guy that you're gonna give the ball, and he's thinking shoot first before pass. Where Michael, you give him the ball, he's thinking he's gonna score 50 on you, and then he's gonna pass. And Michael Jordan was the best player, the greatest player in my era. There's been a lot of great players in this league, and it's hard to to give one player that best ever crown. But all I can say is in my era, Michael Jordan was the best player in my era, and he's I haven't seen anybody else. Kobe is, I guess, came the closest to him.
After you face the ball, where else you going to go? You left your feet. Yeah, but where else you going to go? In the game, I go for you.
I spun all the way around.
I go for these ribs right here.
Like Jordan, I think beyond just the championships, there are other factors that make Jordan the GOAT.
Michael was much better offensively with a low post game, with his shooting.
He never played on a team where anybody on the court got double teamed but him. These 2 guys
played with Shaq.
No, Kobe's played with Shaq.
That's what he's saying.
Who got double teamed. He's playing with Dwyane Wade. Michael never played with a player that would get double teamed. So you had to carry that offensive load for an entire career, not just a season, an entire career, and then on the other end be first team all defensive player. There's no one going to ever be like that because they won't. None of these guys, as we talked about earlier about these super teams, nobody will ever have that burden put on them that Michael Jordan had the way things are being constructed.
Greatest clutch shooter or player ever versus one whose weakness has always been the clutch moments.
When people start comparing him with Jordan, then that's not a fair comparison because Jordan is far more superior player and a very, very tough league and very, very very creative.
Sure.
I mean, that's not taking anything away from LeBron James because he's a great player, but it's not a fair comparison because I think Jordan is much far superior player.
But when you want to talk about legacy and you want to try to convince me that he's even in the same breath with Michael Jordan, that is incomprehensible and finally just shamefully offensive to me.
And there's no game that I would ever play in and pick LeBron James over Michael Jordan.
We all say, this is the guy, he's the best. And we say it with great pride and we say it with great honor to have played and competed against him.
I also observed him in the 90s as he dominated, for his 6-year run.
Everyone wants to make the comparison between LeBron James and Michael Jordan.
I'm looking at what LeBron James has done in his body of work.
And if you didn't see it yesterday, late last night, the Hall of Fame point guard from the Detroit Pistons, Isaiah Thomas, he actually put out the following.
And if I had to pick one over the other, right now I'm picking LeBron James over a Michael Jordan.
And I say this with no disrespect to Jordan. And every time I say this, you know, I get, well, Isaiah hates Jordan, doesn't like him, so forth and so on. That has nothing to do with it.
The blasphemy.
Now, to be clear about this, Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan do not like one another.
You know, I coached Jordan in his last All-Star game, and he was incredibly nice to my son, and I will never forget, and he's always been respectful to me.
He said not only is LeBron James better than Michael Jordan, he's much better.
LeBron James is a much better basketball player than Michael Jordan.
Do you agree with Zeke?
I don't agree with nothing Zeke ever said. I don't even agree with nothing he ever did.
But what I'm witnessing and seeing in LeBron James as a complete basketball player dominating this period of time,
I find that comment there just hating, you know?
I haven't seen anyone else do that in all league with the exception of two people, and that's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bill Russell.
He was 6-0. To me, it's a silly argument.
Michael Jordan to us right now, because he's undefeated in championship, it's going to be hard to knock him off being the greatest basketball player ever. And because LeBron has lost in the finals, and the number of times that he's lost.
You mentioned rings. That does matter.
There's a lot of people that think he'll never be able to get to Michael
And
Jordan.
one was ugly, the Dallas one.
Yes.
That was ugly.
Let's talk about who he lost to. Okay, the only team that you can really say that they should have beat or that he should have beat was that Dallas Mavericks team.
Have you ever seen a superstar meltdown the way LeBron James did against the Dallas Mavericks that you're favored over in the 2011 finals? I've never seen anything like it.
Was the series when LeBron completely disappeared? Was it against the Celtics when he was in Cleveland?
Well, the owner accused LeBron James of quitting on the team in that series.
I mean, he just disappeared.
I will look into the camera and say, the finals against the Mavericks is the biggest black mark on any resume of any all-time Pantheon player.
They do matter, and they do come up. So it's not just a statistical category, but it also matters, okay, what you do when you get there.
Is Kevin Garnett going to the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Is Paul Pierce going to the Hall of Fame?
It's a different
time.
time.
Is Ray Allen going to the Hall of Fame?
And they beat him too.
Now, Michael Jordan was a great scorer, and he dominated, and he did some things that, you know, LeBron has been criticized for not doing.
So how can you just snap your fingers and expunge LeBron's record, which is tainted?
Tainted.
Because he had an all-time superstar meltdown.
I think we clearly know who LeBron James is. He's not a fourth-quarter killer. He's everything else except that.
I mean, Tom Brady's 5-3, right? But you know what Tom Brady gets? The most Super Bowl wins, sheer number, in 5, and then 8 appearances on top of that. On top of that, he's above 500.
LeBron would have more titles if he picked what he was going to be.
Is he going to be a scorer? Is he going to be an assist guy? He hasn't singular defined that. So he's all over the place, and that's a good thing for him.
I'm either going to be Magic and give you 22 points and 12 assists tonight, or I'm going to be like a true small forward, lead the league in scoring and 10 rebounds.
If LeBron were more refined, just a scorer, I think it would be easier to build a winning team around him.
Because that makes it easier for the other players to know their role.
And he's down 3-1 in that series, and he comes back and he beats that team. That team will go down as probably one of the greatest teams to ever play in the history of our league.
Michael Jordan is still the best basketball player that ever lives.
To me, that's the biggest accomplishment that he's had as a champion.
Michael Jordan right now is the greatest player ever.
Earlier this year, for a 19-game stretch, LeBron James had the worst plus-minus in all of basketball. Did that ever happen to Jordan?
No. LeBron fails all those tests. Fewer championships than Jordan, below 500. It's not going to add up for LeBron to be in an equal debate with Jordan. There's just something about that to me. 6, below 500. Undefeated, below 500.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan is the greatest player to ever put on shoes and play in our game. No doubt about it.
So are you saying LeBron is better than Michael Jordan?
I would pick LeBron James.
You would?
You need to shut the fuck up.
Now get the fuck out of here.
What a silly Negro.
When you start to compare players to Michael, you got to compare the years that they played.
Right.
And it's hard to make that comparison, LeBron and Michael.
Now you look at Scottie Pippen and you say to yourself, okay, you bring up the errors as if that's a knock against Jordan, when it is my belief that is what elevates Jordan. He will never be in Jordan's class to me. It's not disrespectful to LeBron James. It's just appreciating not just Michael Jordan, but errors. Now, when I've spoken to Jordan about this very subject, Jordan always reminds me, can't compare errors. I mean, the bottom line is it's a different era. He's the best of his era, and that is that. And that's the way that folks view it. And I understand it and respect it. I'm not trying to take anything away from LeBron per se. What disgusts me about this argument, which is why I'm going to get into an argument with Isaiah Thomas once I find his blasphemous self. I can't believe anybody from the old school era would disrespect the era. That's what really, really resonates with me, what I can't get around. I'm looking at the road to prosperity. I didn't even bring up Cleveland with Larry Nance and Mark Price and Craig Elo and all of these boys. I'm looking at the road traveled to that level of prosperity. And I don't ever recall LeBron having to go through that in order to get to that point. And that is why, to me, it's not about the individual talent. It's about the fact that that road traveled has never been experienced by LeBron James successfully. And I cannot give him the edge over Jordan because of that. We are living in an era, we are literally covering an era where you can get called for a foul for passing gas. I mean, if the smell stink enough, you might get called for a foul. You got bad breath, you might get a technical. Don't get me started with the talking. And that's even before you get into the actual physical play that takes place. I gave you 3 categories before you even get into the physical play. This is the era LeBron is living in. Now, a 270-pound locomotive coming at you is playing in an era where you don't even have to touch him and you might still get called for a foul. But Jordan was playing against Boston with McHale and Bird and Parrish and those boys. And then after that, he had to go through the bad boy.
He never complained. Rick Mahorn and those guys, Kevin McHale and those guys, beat him to a pulp. He never complained.
With Mahorn and Lambert and Sally and Rodman and James Edwards and Dumas and a rough rider like Isaiah Thomas, who was a little pit bull. He was CP3 before CP3 ever came along.
You saw him in the gym. He came back a little stronger. Shoulders were looking bigger, sort of like Shannon Sharpish, sort of like, a young Skip Bayless.
And then after that, we go into the 90s, where you're going against the Knicks.
The Goon Squad in New York. Patrick Ewing. The late, great Anthony Mason.
Not a Hall of Famer.
Charles Oakley.
My good friend, not a Hall of Famer.
John Starks.
Not a Hall of Famer.
It doesn't matter. They were beating his butt.
With Mason and Oakley and Ewing and these boys. You go against Indiana with the Davises and Rick Smits and Reggie Miller and those boys. You go into the finals against Phoenix with Barkley. You go into the finals against Portland with Clyde Drexler and the crew. You go into the finals with Magic and the Lakers. You go into the finals with Karl Malone and Stockton. You go into the finals against Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. And Scottie Pippen has the temerity, the unmitigated gall, the blasphemy to sit up there and go like this. Well, you know what, they play in different eras, and we just have to look at it, and more responsibility was on LeBron James' shoulders. What are you smoking? Scottie Pippen, one of the greatest players as far as I'm concerned, two-way players. He defended all-time 50 greats. I loved having them on the show. It's all in fun, baby. Don't take it personal. I love me some Scottie Pippen. But when it comes to this subject about Michael Jordan, I'm sitting there going like this. Did Michael Jordan not hug you enough? Did he not appreciate you enough? Is there something that's missing in terms of the love, the brotherhood, or something that tells us that, you know what, you just up in your feelings? Because I don't understand how you could bring up errors and think that that favors LeBron with this softest cottonelle tissue era that we're living in.
Do you still think that LeBron is the greatest and Michael was the best scorer.
I never said that LeBron was the greatest.
If you want to bring up era, how could you ignore the era and responsibility in the same question? It's not diametrically opposed. The point that I'm trying to make is the era was so tough. That in and of itself harbored a strong level of responsibility. Scottie Pippen knows basketball. He knows that.
Well, I would say, for example, when you talk about fouls, it was more physically taxing in Jordan's era in terms of how you might get roughed up. But I wouldn't say that LeBron gets more calls than Jordan. In fact, if you really want to look at it, LeBron suffers a little bit of what Shaq did, which is he's so big and strong, they let people get away with a little more on LeBron than they would on another player. And Jordan got a ton of calls.
Whoa, stop the question. Are you sitting here and saying that LeBron James has been exposed to the level of physicality that Michael Jordan was exposed to?
No. It's not what I'm saying.
I just wanted to make sure. No, I'm not accusing. I had to ask. You're
talking about physical toughness. Look, if you rewind the clock in football, those guys may have been able to get away with more dirty tricks or more kind of brutality in a way. That doesn't mean they were better football
Brutality is an appropriate word.
Yeah.
Brutality is see, hold on, Molly, before we go.
Game's
see,
changed.
this is the blasphemy in Max's word. This is the blasphemy when it comes to Max. Max Kellerman, put me up on that damn split screen so I can see Max Kellerman when I'm saying this, please. Max Kellerman, the boxing historian. A boxing historian, an elite boxing analyst. You cover a pugilistic sport and you're going to ignore the physicality that Michael Jordan has been subjected to because of this gibberish that Scottie Pippen is doing. Scottie Pippen is one of the elite players because in a physical era, he still stood out above the crowd. How can he look at himself knowing how great he was and not appreciate Michael Jordan as much as he should when it compares to the...
I'm not ignoring it. And Michael Jordan, by the way, played 82 games like every single year and played 40 minutes almost a game. I'm not ignoring it. It's not a question of who's tougher or even who's greater. Jordan. We agree about that.
I'm going to give you one last chance to stop being so blasphemous, Scottie Pippen.
If you're picking and you're the coach or you're playing and you need the running mate and you could have LeBron or Michael, who you picking?
Well, that's a dumb question. I'm going to take LeBron or Michael.
Michael Jordan or LeBron James, better, who are you going with?
Well, I'm going to go with Michael Jordan. Okay. But statistically, LeBron James is a better basketball player. And here's why. He fills the stats up across the board, night in and night out.
Well, let me ask you this, Scottie Pippen. When it comes time to close, who you want?
Inbound pass comes into Jordan. Here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win! They win!
But if you really look at the totality of LeBron's career, the truth is, without the greatest clutch shot I ever witnessed by Ray Allen, which saved his bacon.
James catches, puts up a three. Won't go. Rebound Bosh. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining.
My eye test tells me that Michael's better. We're just sort of doing vacuum to vacuum, just what do they look like?
6-time champion who's never, ever lost an NBA Finals, who, by the way, never even allowed a series to go 7 games. Right. You were right there.
I'd never seen anything like the force of nature that was Michael Jordan as a leader, as a clutch takeover player.
I would agree.
Games.
Yes.
I've just never seen anything like it.
How is it that you talk about Michael Jordan like LeBron James is in the same sentence as him? Why do you do that?
Michael Jordan.
He makes the impossible look ordinary.
I would never diss Michael Jordan. I will always pick him over LeBron.
3, 2, Michael falls, fires. Yeah! Does it again! The Bulls win. He looks at the crowd.
Why is it when you bring up a LeBron James and you bring up today's game, why don't you highlight and crystallize the difference between this game, the way the game is played in this day and age, and the way y'all had to play back in the day?
Dennis, together with Scottie Pippen and some dude named Mikhail Jordan.
What would Michael Jordan have done in this era?
Oh, he would have killed. He would have killed.
Jordan a drive. 17 seconds from game 7 or from championship number 6. Jordan open. Chicago with the lead. Fires. Yeah! The Bulls lead 87-86. Jordan trying to shake off Starks. Oh, what a move by Jordan!
Bottom line, you love him dearly.
I played that way.
You love him dearly, but he's not MJ.
No, he's not MJ.
Well, there's hope for you after all, Scotty.
All right.
There's hope for him after all.
Thank you. Save
Back
the
to
day.
y'all.
As people that's been around the block for so very long and got a chance to see multiple eras, I get frustrated trying to school these young people on Michael Jordan versus LeBron James.
Michael Jordan undefeated in NBA Finals. I'm not comparing the nostalgia of Michael Jordan. Like Mike, I get that we were all raised like that.
There was a mystery. There was a Joe DiMaggio quality. He'd walk in the arena suited and booted when you didn't have to come in suited and booted. He had the shades, and you'd see him when you'd see him.
You cannot tell me in a one-on-one game now that LeBron James wouldn't dominate Mike.
Jesus Christ.
In a one-on-one game, LeBron James, 6'9", 260 pounds. If the game was at 7, I think LeBron would win 7-3.
Sweet Lord. What are your thoughts when these debates come up? Did you just say into a microphone that LeBron James would beat Michael Jordan in a one-on-one?
One-on-one match.
One-on-one?
LeBron James is 6'9", 260. He moves like a guard. He moves like a guard.
I've never seen you get frustrated for real on TV, you know.
Let me tell you some of the people that people forget Michael Jordan played against. Michael Jordan was all defensive first team 9 times.
Okay.
LeBron James was 5 times.
Okay.
He was dominating the league when they had a Celtics dynasty, when they had a Lakers dynasty, when the bad boy Pistons were there.
You can go back and forth, but I've never seen you really get frustrated.
In 1988, Michael Jordan led the league in scoring,
Did
in
you just
steals.
have this stat handy?
Yes. He won All-Star Game MVP. He won Defensive Player of the Year, and he won the dunk contest. So Michael Jordan led the league in scoring 10 times.
Okay.
10. LeBron James led the league in scoring once.
Okay.
The conversation of Michael Jordan versus LeBron James and you hearing that LeBron James would win really pissed you off. And
hold on, one other thing. You talking about who Michael I can't even talk.
rightfully so, because that's your era. You came up in the great era of Michael Jordan, and this era today is coming up in the great era of LeBron James.
Who's the best opponent LeBron James has gone against?
These Warriors.
Okay.
Kevin Durant.
Before that.
Spurs. I mean, Tim Duncan. With Spurs doing?
Exactly. And how did that end up?
I don't think that you can ever compare the two because Mike is Mike and Mike is Mike for a reason. The game changed because of Mike.
You know, he had the it factor.
Did Michael Jordan have to learn how to be the alpha? I saw the guy that win a championship in college that had it then.
He didn't always have it.
Correct.
That's okay, though. I'm not doing this.
I'm going to take the guy that always had it.
And a lot of players have the swag and the movement that they have today because of Mike.
It was perfection. The way he wore his uniform, the socks low, the sneakers, sent people into a frenzy. He was the first to do so many things.
Correct. Michael Jordan had that championship instinct, that killer, that he didn't have to go learn it from Pat Riley and Dwyane Wade. He had it.
And that can never be discredited or discounted.
But Michael Jordan is the only player other than Hakeem Olajuwon that I've been on the court and was like, he's the best player on the offensive side and the best player on the defensive side.
That's like saying, Kevin, you compare me to Eddie Murphy or Richard Pryor. You can't. I don't care what I do. I don't care what I accomplish. There's no comparison ever because those guys changed the game for me to be here.
He was the first to wear the number 23.
He beat everybody who was in his path.
He's not beating Michael Jordan.
A lot of discussion about who was the GOAT. Who's your take? Who do you have?
I think it's the same thing with LeBron and Jordan. So Jordan will forever win those arguments and those battles in my eyes.
What MJ did, getting to the finals and dominating the league like he did it in a different way than LeBron's doing it. It's just because of the nature of their body, the build, and their game, and their mental makeup.
Tonight you passed Michael Jordan, 867 consecutive double-figure scoring games. What does it mean to you to break Michael Jordan's mark?
This is a celebration, bitch.
You know the MJ comparisons have ramped up after the series. How close is LeBron now to catching Jordan?
I think for me, anytime I'm in the same breath as the greats of this game.
Same place he was last week. Last year, last month, last year, a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I mean, I don't get, look.
I grew up 30 minutes south of here where the statistics were not for us and for me, so.
Here's the deal. When I sit up there and I tell you that LeBron does not compare to MJ, it's not about MJ. Even though he averaged over 30, 12 times out of his 13 times in the playoffs. Even though he once averaged 43 for a season. Even though he averaged over 30 in a season about 5 or 6 times, actually over 35. Forget all of that. Here's the deal.
For me to continue to be an inspiration to the youth and do what I do on the floor, it means a lot for me in that sense.
It's not about them. It's about errors. And that's why I'm calling everybody out. If I hear another veteran, I'm talking about a Hall of Famer. I'm talking about those old school cats. If I hear one of those guys say another word about comparisons from LeBron to MJ, I'm going to call them out on national television, and I damn all. I'll take on all of them. And here is why. The game was so different. It was so rough. The path to prosperity was so deep, was so big time. For them to ignore that and to act like today's game is the same is flat out blasphemous. I can't take that. That's my issue. It's not about Jordan in terms of his abilities. Yes, being an all-defensive player of the year, being a guy, that led the league in steals and all of this other stuff. I get all of that. What I'm saying is that's just looking at the numbers. How about the competition? Anybody could be the biggest man on campus in a small man contest. Okay? We understand it's about competition. It's about who you're actually going up against, Max. And for people to ignore that, to ignore the bad boy Pistons, to ignore the Boston Celtics, to ignore the Portland Trailblazers, to ignore the Phoenix Suns, to ignore the Seattle Supersonics with Kemp before he became Clump, and the glove Gary Payton, to ignore Karl Malone and Stockton and all of those boys had. I just got a problem.
When you're laying big case files of evidence on the table of this debate, winning with this team this year, beating this Golden State Warriors team would be the heaviest case book. It'd be the heaviest piece of evidence laid down on the LeBron James side of this debate.
I don't think LeBron can ever be viewed like Jordan is right now, whereas Jordan is the undisputed GOAT.
It would be the opening and closing argument. You'd start with, well, do you remember 2018? Do you remember J.R. Smith? That's where the debate would start.
Like there's really no debate, right? Whenever you say who's the greatest basketball player, it's always Jordan.
LeBron James is fantastic. He's a fantastic player. One thing that I think that LeBron James doesn't get as much credit for at being totally better than Michael Jordan is how outspoken he is.
He still wouldn't have 6 rings.
When Michael was in the league, he didn't say anything. And everybody was like, say something. Are you going to say something? He didn't say anything. LeBron hasn't been afraid from the beginning, and he's just catching steam.
I don't know if LeBron will ever get to that point where it's like, oh, he's definitely the greatest.
5 NBA Finals losses has something to do with that.
But that LeBron factor of speaking out, not being afraid to speak out, and taking on the burden of being a black star today and not shying away from her is inspiring the people in the league and the people that are going to come after him in all sports.
But it wouldn't win it. It wouldn't put him even on even footing with Jordan.
But I'm never going to give him the title as the greatest ever. I cannot do that. Not with 5 NBA Finals, potentially 6 on your resume.
He's never going to catch him. I don't care if he's winning the championship. He's not winning the championship. He ran around the All-Star. He ain't winning the championship this year. Shannon, we made a bet last year that you didn't pay me.
Not with so many moments where we can point to where your ability to close just wasn't there.
Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player ever. And I disagree with Nick because I saw it and the ability of what he could do when everything was on the line.
Because if we admit that not all titles are worth the same, not all pieces of evidence have equal weight, then we look back and go, you know, Jordan didn't team up with a bunch of super fins to win some in Miami.
One thing about Chicago, we played Chicago, man, is the fact that we didn't have to buy a championship.
In other words, if you give LeBron credit for this hypothetical championship, you're admitting the ones he won in Miami aren't of equal value and equal weight. And then we compare those against Jordan. And the bottom line is this, in the end, here's the God's honest truth. No matter how much weight we give them, I'll be curious to see what you say about this, Stephen A. But there's just something about below 500 versus undefeated that I can't put you on equal footing.
Those 2 three-peats that Jordan has, those are hard to compare anything to.
He's one of the top 3 talents in the history of basketball, no doubt.
LeBron James is great. He's the greatest player of his generation. But LeBron James will never catch Michael Jordan, okay? He'll never be Michael Jordan.
But ultimately, you have to go with closure. And when I think closure, I think about Michael Jordan, the greatest ever, and I'm never putting my LeBron James above him.
By the metrics, the direct comps, the advanced analytics.
Jordan's better than LeBron. The advanced analytics like Jordan better than LeBron, both at his peak and for his career averages. Jordan's more of a killer. Jordan's a greater player. LeBron's not going to catch Jordan. Jordan's the greatest. Let's leave Jordan out of that because he changed the standard.
Greatest of all time is Jordan. So that is case closed.
LeBron James never has, nor will he ever be Michael Jordan.
LeBron is great, but Michael Jordan is the greatest.